I am not Games Workshop, and this is not Warhammer. I'm the Readmeister, and this is Brokehammer. I've heard some people refer to stop motion animation as a lost art form. Now, while stop motion is certainly antiquated by today's standards, it has not been lost to the sands of time like those people might have you believe. It has simply evolved into something new and something arguably more inspiring. If you search stop motion animation on YouTube, you will find a plethora of content to watch. You can add stop motion animation to the end of almost any phrase, and you will probably find something. Some examples that I often find myself coming back to are Army Men stop motion videos, Godzilla stop motion videos, and Aliens vs. Predator. But those are just a few super specific examples that I like. You can find anything in the stop motion category like horror, comedy, romance, history. Now, a lot of the more intentionally comedic stop motions feel like bad robot chicken skits. Now, a lot of this content, and I mean a lot, is made by kids, which is super inspiring to see, for me at least. These kids are dipping their toes into the filmmaking pond for the first time, testing the waters for what content does or doesn't work. And that's what's so inspiring to see, again, for me at least. Now, but the quality, well, it's bad, but only in a completely objective sense. Don't mistake me labeling these animations bad as a rip on those creators. It is meant to describe things such as frames per second, editing, voice acting, writing, things of that nature. A video can be objectively bad, but still be subjectively enjoyable. Just like how people enjoy So Bad They're Good movies. Like me, for instance, I really love the movie Doom. Not Doom Annihilation, no, the 2005 or 2006 movie with The Rock and Carl Urban. A lot of people really hate that movie, but I can't help it. I really like it. Now, I would say the amount of creators on YouTube who make legitimately good stop motion content and upload regularly make up about roughly maybe 30% of the total number of stop motion animators on YouTube. Three examples that immediately come to mind are Black Star Initiative, Lee Hardcastle, and Nadio Maru Darkside. But I refuse to rip on the creators who make bad stop motion content, kids, for one reason. I was one of those kids. I started uploading stop motion content to YouTube when I was 11, and they were terrible, at times devolving into just complete incoherent nonsense. In my mind, I was a young Steven Spielberg. To my fellow students, I was a weirdo who still played with kids' toys. To some of my teachers, I was a possible school shooter. To my parents, I was an antisocial introvert with a high probability of becoming a 40-year-old virgin. But I wasn't any of those things. I was just a kid who happened to enjoy making ultra-violent, gruesome stop-motion animations with kids' toys. And I am most certainly not weird. I am limited edition. Yeah, I'm fucking weird. This was my channel, RD the Ninja. Most of my stuff has been since deleted from that account because it's defunct, but I did keep up a majority of the better animations so that I could still go back to it every once in a while. In 2021, I decided to return to stop motion animation, and within the span of a year, I made 3. It is already more than halfway through 2022, and I'm only just now starting on my 4th. God damn, is it taking forever! And I will give you an explanation as to why it is taking forever in the form of YouTube content. The animation I am working on right now is a sequel to my 2 Army Men vs. Giant Insect videos, or just bugs for short. And I am already running into problems. However, Filmmaking, from the very beginning, has always been about problem solving. So, in the spirit of filmmaking, I'm not going to refer to these things as problems, but instead challenges. And the three main challenges I'm facing off the bat are building my armies from scratch, keeping everything to scale, and getting everything painted. Building the armies. For the last 3 animations, I primarily utilized and painted army men, but the experience of purchasing and allocating these army men has not been a fruitful endeavor for me. In fact, it frustrates the ever-loving Christ out of me for one reason. No army men made by any toy manufacturer will be to scale. Now, I understand why companies do this. It's so they can differentiate themselves from the competition. And the kids aren't going to complain because they've got different sets of different looking army men to choose from. But that means that I can't use any army men. So that's when I decided to make the switch to 28mm wargaming miniatures. Generally speaking, most of the companies who make 28mm miniatures are to scale with each other. So I could totally use different soldiers from different companies if I needed to. Speaking of which, during the production of the very first Giant Insects video, I had briefly considered using Warhammer 40k miniatures. But that was back in 2020, still with pandemic prices. Remember, this is Brokehammer, not Warhammer. Mantic Games minis it is. Unfortunately, the insects that I had made for the first 2 videos were too big to use with the 28mm miniatures. So I was going to have to figure something out. But I got lucky when I found these at a Dollar General. Fucking Dollar General, of all things, of all places. Or maybe it was a Dollar Tree. I don't know. I can never remember. But these things are cool. And they fit with the 28mm minis. I got super lucky with these. I believe these come from a line of toys called Final Faction. I haven't looked into Final Faction because I have absolutely no desire to. But these things are cool. Keeping everything to scale. Almost every pack, bucket, or bag of army men you will purchase will come with at least 2 tanks, the most common of which being the classic Patton tank used all the way back in the Cold War. Unfortunately, the tank is not to scale with the army men that it comes with. It never is. Now, a lot of newer, more modern army men will come with tanks that are the size of goddamn clown cars compared to the soldiers that they come with. To go even further, the size of the army men from Walmart are a third bigger the size of the army men from H-E-B or Target, so I can't even use the army men together. After spending all of my money on the figures and paints, I realized that I had gone through my budget faster than a university frat boy discovering cocaine for the first time, and I did not really have any money left to allocate tanks. So I had to find some workarounds. You can't just send a group of soldiers up against a never-ending horde of bloodthirsty insects. This isn't Starship Troopers logic here. After some research, taking some measurements, and some experimenting, I found that the Patton tanks are actually a pretty decent size compared to the 28mm miniatures that I have. The only issue then was making these tanks look sci-fi, which I managed to do by dismantling 2 Leonard Aliens APCs to get to the double-barrel turret at the top of it. So I just popped the top off the Pattons and placed the APC turret on top of the Patton, and hey, it fit. With the issue of the Patton tanks out of the way, I still had a whole bunch of tiny clown car-sized tanks that I had painted from a previous animation that I hadn't finished. Well, I had found that the tanks, the small tanks, the clown car size tanks, are actually about 172 or 176 scale, which means that theoretically getting some 172 scale army men would fit with the tanks. And it did. Painting. And now for the fun part. And by fun, I mean more tedious and time consuming than the animating itself. I understood the fact that I was going to have to paint each and every one of these miniatures that I'm using for my animation by hand. Having previously painted more dozens of army men and insect creatures from my last two videos, I thought it was going to be quick and easy. I was wrong! These 28mm miniatures are far more intricately detailed than the army men. Surprise, surprise. And as a result, I severely underestimated the amount of time it would take to paint each one. On top of that, I also shot myself in the foot by using up a majority of the pieces to make the same pose over and over again, and neglected to make any other pose. Oopsie poopsie, I made a fucky wucky. Yeah, I severely underestimated how much time it would take to paint all of these miniatures. Good lord. I have already painted 12 of the GCPS troopers, 6 of the insects, and 9 of the miniature tanks. That just leaves the 2 patent tanks, 5 more 172 scale tanks, and an entire 25 to 30 GCPS troopers. Oh yeah, and all of the 172 scale army men and the sets. And probably even more army men, because, you know, I'm gonna blow these things the fuck up. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it at least mildly interesting. If you liked it enough, please leave a like or leave a comment. Y'all have a good one. This is the Readmeister, signing out.